Think about that. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. The Lord has evil spirits? Think about this. And Saul's servant said unto him, Behold, now an evil spirit from God troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servant, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on a harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. And Saul said unto this servant, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Remember all this. This is important. Then answered one of the servants, and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David, thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. So you have here established that Saul knows who David is, know who David's father is. Some of you know what I'm talking about. We'll get to that part. And it says, and David came to Saul. He met Saul, understand this, and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. Understand, you have it here. Saul, knowing who David is, knowing who his father is. It's important. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. And you got to mark these verses down again. God having evil spirits come from him to go onto other people. What does it talk about here? Clear as day, as I said before. Same being God and Satan. If God created Satan, and Satan is evil. If God created everything, then he created evil. Plain and simple. So for him to be using evil to, get his way or what have you, I mean, you got to think about this stuff. So now this is basically where the story of David and Goliath comes in. You guys know the story. And, basically you have the Philistines, in power, what have you. And the Philistines have a champion. That champion would be Goliath, who's supposedly 9 foot tall, whatever, you heard. Big dude. So, they go out to fight the Philistines, and of course, getting their butt kicked. David comes, and David's like, take on this dude. And they try to offer him the armor to put on, and everything else, some weapons. And David is like, no, I'm cool, I don't need nothing, I got my slingshot. So we know the story. Basically, rock, pop him in the head one time, boom, knocks him out, and then takes the sword and chops off his head. So David takes the head back to Jerusalem to let people know, hey, this is what I've done. Chop the boy head off, beat the giant, or what have you. And of course, Saul sees this, and he's basically jealous. But it's a crazy part about this whole thing. So we read, start at 54. And it says, and David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem. But he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son the stripling is. And as David returned from the slaughtering of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said unto him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Now that's one of the many issues with the Bible that people get into. One, as I said before, we just read the whole part in the book where you have clear as day Saul knowing Jesse, knowing his son is David. They meet, they talk, and it's on. Like, they know each other. How is it you get to this point in the book and he don't even know who David is? There's no explanation to that. You have a lot of scholars who look at this and it's like, well, the writer messed up somewhere, but it's put there in the book. And it's weird, which we'll get into. But how does he not know? You know, when we just read that he met him. Like, why would he even put that in there? It don't make sense. It's crazy. So basically what happens next is, Saul takes in David. Basically say, forget your parents, you're going to come live with me. Saul and, David and Saul's son, Jonathan, becomes like close friends, like best friends. And, they do a lot together, what have you. They become real close. But, it's important for you to look at what's taking place with Saul and how he has his eye on what David is doing. So we're saying here, 18:6, and it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the woman came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the woman answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God has the evil spirit, people, came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. So he tried to kill him twice with that javelin, and David avoided it twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. So basically what happens, you have, Saul sending David out on these suicide missions, hoping that David would get killed. But every time, David goes on a mission, he ends up winning. So Saul is like, you know what, man, forget all this crap. I'm just going to kill this dude. So he basically sends men out to go get David, so he could bring him back to Saul and basically kill David. But, the people like David, they know he's a good man. So they basically, he's warned, he's helped, and he basically flees. So he flees, and he basically ends up putting together his own little army of people who don't really like Saul, or don't like, they in poverty or what have you. They don't like the way things are being run. So they put together an army. David basically goes out and they basically defeat this army of Philistines that's basically enslaving and oppressing the Keilah tribe. So Saul hears about this, and he basically goes out to where David is, where the Keilah tribe is, to basically track him down. So, David finds out that Saul is coming, and he basically, prays to God and say, hey, tell me what's going to happen. Is this tribe going to sell us out to Saul, or are they going to turn us over? And God says, yeah, if Saul comes and you still there, the people will give you up. So they were like, okay, cool, we out. So David and gets his army, and they basically leave and go out into the wilderness. Saul follows them out into the wilderness. So what happens is, he follows them out there, and David has a chance to kill Saul. Saul taking a pee, taking a leak. David basically has a chance to kill him. He doesn't. Instead, he cuts off a piece of his garment, just to show him that I could have killed you, but I didn't. I had a knife and cut off your garment. It's cool. He says he don't want to kill an anointed man of God. So he basically, lets it slide. And he pleads to Saul. He says, Saul, cool out. Trying to kill me for what? What's going on? You put me here. You did this. Why are you trying to kill me? And Saul basically tells him, well, I know you're going to eventually become the king. You're going to eventually run Israel. You're going to become the king. All I want is for you not to destroy my name and my house. And David basically agrees, and they have that agreement, and, they go about their separate ways. So now, chapter 25, Samuel dies, and Saul basically still tries to kill David. He gets some men follows them back out to the wilderness, and they go out there and they set up camp. Now, David is smart. He sends spies out there to go figure out, where is Saul at? Where is he sleeping at? Where is his tent? So while Saul is asleep in his tent, David basically goes in there and takes his javelin, his little spear. And again, he could have killed Saul, had a chance to kill him, but didn't. And he basically again, he pleads with Saul and says, Saul, what are you doing? Don't we had an understanding here? What are you still trying to kill me? What's going on? So, Saul basically, apologizes again and goes back to his kingdom and, chills. But also still understand, the whole time you got all this stuff going on, with the Philistines and with Saul and with David. David and his army are still going out and conquering territories. They're still going out and killing people and killing the Amorites and the Perizzites and what have you. They still out there killing and basically following the plan of giving the people, the chosen people, they promised land. So he's out doing what he's supposed to do. And Saul is out basically trying to kill him, and at the same time trying to basically do what he's supposed to do. But it's crazy when you look at it in the context of you have this supposedly good man, being saved in the Bible, from our point of view, and he's out doing evil, out killing people. And when you read, you'll see he's out killing babies and everything, and he's obliterating everybody. This is what David is doing and his men. They're out killing. So it's weird for him to plead to Saul about, you being anointed of God and everything like that, or, just having the understanding that what you're trying to do is wrong, but still having the stomach to go out and kill babies. It's all weird stuff when you look at the whole thing. But what basically ended up happening, Saul, he's still crazy, still want to kill David. So he basically is upset because he's trying to, talk to God and ask God questions or what have you. God is not responding to none of his prayer or sending anybody out there to talk to Saul at all. He basically abandoned him. So Saul gets desperate and he basically seeks out a witch. Saul wants to know, what he's trying to ask God basically is it okay to go attack the Philistines? Are we going to win this war? Are you going to be with us? So he needs answers. So he go and gets a witch who basically, have control of familiar spirits. We understand about that. And, he asks her to summon the spirit of Samuel, which is weird that, this is done. So Samuel comes and he basically tells Saul, well, the reason why God is not with you and not answering you is because of what you're doing. You're disobeying the laws, basically trying to kill David. How would you think you would get, God's protection when you are not following or doing what you're supposed to be doing? So, Samuel basically tells Saul that, you and your sons are going to be joining me soon. Plain and simple. So better chill out. And that's basically what's going to end up happening. So you have David and his men go out and defeat the Amalekites. Saul takes his sons and his men and they go out and attack the Philistines, and they are basically wiped out. Now, Saul is not killed by the Philistines. He asks his armor bearer to basically kill him. He says, kill me. And the armor bearer's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. And Saul basically, throws himself onto his sword and he kills himself. Again, being a critical thinker is one of those things you got to ask yourself is, how is it that this witch is able to summon the spirit of supposedly a prophet like Samuel?